Welcome to Maricopa City, where we buy Subto deals and don't know what we're gonna do with them quite yet. What we were talking about in the car on the way here is, what do you do with a house, right? How do you make a decision on what your exit strategy is, especially if you buy with Creative Finance? Creative Finance has so many different options. I could re-wholesale this to somebody else if I wanted to. I literally could just assign this for 20 grand and get all my money back and make $20,000 on this easy, maybe 30. I could put a little bit, haven't been in here, so we're gonna go in there and see what it looks like, but I could put a little bit of money into it, put it back on the market, sell it for $370, walk away maybe making like 100, right? Maybe $80,000 to $100,000 net in my pocket after all my money is paid off. That's not bad. Or I could wrap it, I could sell or finance it to somebody else for a much higher number with a high interest rate. That might be not bad. I could do a lease option. I could just hold this as a rental. I could Airbnb it. I could corporate rental this. I could traveling nurse this. I could sober living this. I could do a whole bunch of different exit strategies on this house. And it kind of determines who you are, where you're at in your journey, and what you really need in the next phase of your journey. If I was brand new, I would have just assigned this. I would have just been like, here's 20 grand, I don't want to touch it. I'll just do the Subto paperwork, I'll do the creative finance side of things, bundle the paperwork, sell it to somebody like me, make 20 grand, walk away. But then as you elevate, you're like, okay, well, I want to flip it because I can make a bigger chunk. And then as you elevate and you have more money, more credentials, then you're like, oh crap, I made a lot of money last year in real estate and now I got tax obligations. I need to hold this property because this will actually prevent me from paying a bunch of taxes. And now the conversation's no longer about cash flow, the conversation's about saving money on taxes, right? So there's all sorts of things that you got to weigh in your mind of like who you are, where you're at in your journey. So I'm not quite sure what we're going to do here. And I don't know how to get into the house. Classic. Okay. Okay, so this is always a problem. Okay, here we go. So like I look at the outside of this, it's in really good shape. You can tell when he moved here, he also drove right into the road. The house is in good shape, lighting's in good shape. They even got a really fancy doorbell, that's dope. All right, here we go. Hello? Hello? Eric, have you walked in a house with me that had homeless people yet?
No.
Oh, get ready.
Is it scary?
It's scary, yes, absolutely. Because you don't know like what they're capable of. I've had guns pulled on me. I've had all sorts of things happen to me. Here's a tip. Can I give you a little tip? Anytime you do a walkthrough in a property, always open the front and back door immediately. It's the first thing you should be doing before you walk into the rest of the house. I've been choked. I've had guns pulled on me. I've had knives pulled on me. I've had all sorts of things pulled on me. But more than that, I've been able to escape by opening the front door, as you can see, and opening the back door. So if somebody comes out of the main house, I can run either way with no like obstruction, right? So very important. What does it smell like? What would you tell me it smells like? I know exactly what it smells like.
Just musty, like, it's not cat, is it?
It's a little bit of cat, but it's more a bachelor's ball sack. It's the greasiness of a bachelor's ball sack. It's just disgusting, like gross, gross, gross. So the exit strategy determines what you do with the house too, right? All right, so if you end up selling the property, you're definitely going to do carpet, not laminate. If you end up renting the property, you end up doing laminate because you never want to replace this carpet again. You see what people like, this is human beings. Welcome to human being land. This is what human beings do to disgusting, like, just gross. I'll tell you what you do if you sell this house, okay? You paint the walls, you switch out the hardware. So like this is just unacceptable to sell the house. This is what just gross human beings do. Look at this. So that means your filter is so bad that your cigarettes or whatever it is that you're doing have gotten through your filter and now are coming back into your house. Like, when you ask me like what a distressed property owner is, it's these little signs like this that should show you what a distressed property owner is. Imagine your bed's right here, right? And you're so disgusting that you create this mess in your house. You just have pistachio nuts flying everywhere, and you're laying in bed watching TV or whatever it is you're doing, and you don't notice this? You know what I'm saying? You don't notice this on your fan? That's distress, right? That's somebody that's going through depression. That's somebody that is going through a tough time. And so I'm not making fun of those people. I'm just making sure that you understand that there's a significant difference between what you think a homeowner is and what I see homeowners are all the time. So there is a big significance between a regular homeowner and a distressed homeowner. And when people say, well, where do you find these deals? Well, we find them from distressed property owners. And that's a really ambiguous yet somewhat specific answer. The ambiguity in that is like, well, where do I find those people, right? How do I find a distressed property owner? Well, if you have people that have, their yard looks like this, there's a very important phrase that I learned. How you do anything is how you do everything. And so you can see how people make their life decisions by looking at their house, unfortunately. So this person made bad decisions, lost his job, wasn't able to make payments, that kind of stuff. So if we flip it, it's getting carpet, it's getting paint. I think it's gonna get new ceiling fans, because you can't flip a house with that ceiling fan, right? Very little drywall repair, very little. And tile stays. I gotta look at the flips in the neighborhood, but I think what I'm gonna have to do is I would have to spend money on, for sure, appliances, paint the cabinets maybe, and add new countertops, new sink, etc. So I might spend $7,000 in here for the appliances, the countertops, the sink, probably another $2,000 for paint and $2,000 for flooring, miscellaneous $2,000 of other things like landscape cleanup, etc. So I could probably be all into this thing for $13,000 to $17,000 with some buffer in there and have this thing flipped back on the market and sell this bad boy. So I don't know. Let's take a look at this. So this is what I was thinking. When Eric had the camera overheating, I kind of drew some hieroglyphics. So let's talk about this for a second. So we've got the ARV. So after repair value, after we put the $17,000 into it, I think we can sell this house for $370,000. Okay. Even though there's 6 houses on the market right now, we got 6 listings active. That's not a good thing. It's horrible, actually. I could sell it for $370,000. I'm all into it. We took over a Subto loan for $180,000. It took $65,000 in cash that we borrowed from a private money lender. So that's PML, private money lender. That $65,000 in cash is for the renovation. It's to catch up the late payments. It's to give the seller some cash. We paid an assignment fee to Sandy, who's absolutely amazing. Sandra White, she's great. So I'm all into it, $245,000. And if I sell it for $370,000, we would net around $100,000 on this. So when people are like, oh, where do these deals come from? Guys, this is like middle of 2022 when there's no deals. Yet you make $100,000 on a little house like this. It's because you find the sellers who have distress and pain that you can actually offer something to them. So I could net $100,000 on the flip, or now that I have this Subto loan, it's $1,400. I got a monthly payment of $1,400. I now have a monthly payment with my private money lender at $580. So I'm all into this monthly payment about $2,000. That's what it cost me to hold this property, is about $2,000. I thought, no, probably not a good Airbnb because it's in godforsaken Maricopa. It's not a good assisted living. It's too small. It could be a good rental, but at a rent rate in this neighborhood, it wouldn't cash flow. It'd basically break even. If I turn this into a sober living and I had 8 to 9 people live in here, just rent by the bed, I could rent this out for about $5,400. And at $5,400, I would net between $2,000 and $3,000 a month on this property. Over 24 months, I could pay back all the money back to my private money lender. And after all of that, I would own a house for $350,000 to $450,000 in value, depending on what's going on in the market, with $0 out of my pocket and have an infinite return of $2,000 a month for the rest of my life. And obviously that would go up and up and up as I raised rents and stuff like that. So you got 2 really good options here, right? Option 1, long haul, forever money. $2,000 a month for the rest of your life. Or take the $100,000 right now or within the next couple of months and maybe roll that $100,000 into a couple of other deals so you don't have to use private money. There's the answer. Let's go through the garage. All right, so I don't think you're gonna have to do too much in here. I think it's just carpet, paint, maybe some outlets, little basic stuff. But one thing we gotta look on is appliances in the laundry room. All right, these look pretty good. If I kept it as a rental, these would be pretty good. And then hot water heater. Ooh, check it out. So we got a newer hot water heater. Okay, cool, 4 years old. Hot water heaters in Arizona usually last about 15 years, so we're good there. And then garage door opener and everything is good. So overall, this is a really easy house, really easy project. Not sure what we're gonna do yet, but we'll do a follow-up video. We'll do like a part 2 so you guys can see exactly what the plan is here. But the listings on the house in the neighborhood that are active, those kind of got me fearful that I won't make the $100,000 that I was really hoping to make. And if I can't make the $100,000, there's something mental there where it's like, yeah, you made $72,000. I almost in a weird way would rather just keep the property, put it in the portfolio, let it cash flow, grow, let the mortgages pay down, pay off the private money lender, and just hold the property for forever. So we'll follow up with you guys on part 2 of this when we make the decision, when we're done with it, and we'll break down all the numbers so you guys see exactly what we decided to do. We'll see you guys later.